So, what is Scrum? Well, Scrum is one of the umbrella methodologies that came about from an agile movement. Overall, agile was developed as a result of some failure software development methodologies. Some of you may know, some of you may not. Several years ago, and actually some companies are still doing this, there was a software development methodology called waterfall. There were several others, but waterfall is probably the most popular. And the way software development worked there was that we would spend months of planning the software, then we could spend months more developing, and finally at the end, maybe after almost a year, some code would be ready for testers to uptake. And so testers, would have maybe a month or two to test all of the code that was developed in all of those previous months. And then there would be a very tight deadline where the software would go out, let's say, in about a year. And testers needed to meet that. And during that time, testers were testing, the developers were fixing code, and it was very crazy. And at the end of that cycle, the product came out, and usually it was very disappointing. First, because the client who may have ordered the product did not realize what they were ordering, right? When they were ordering, they had one vision of what the product is, and when the product came out, it was completely different. Another reason that this was a failing methodology was because a year of time in IT is a huge amount of time, right? In 1 year, so much can change, right? MySpace can be relevant 1 month, and the next month MySpace can no longer be relevant. And what if you were making an application for MySpace, and by the time you were finished, you wasted 1 year of development time, that's probably millions of dollars, and your application is no longer relevant? How sucky would that be? So those were just some of the drawbacks of this waterfall methodology, and that's actually why Agile came about. And Scrum is just an umbrella of that. In Scrum, also, the emphasis is on decision making from real world problems. What I mean by that is that because there are short sprints with code that is constantly in a potentially shippable state, the short sprints allow real world decisions to be made. These sprints usually occur in a 1 to 2 week time frame, right? So in the 1 to 2 week time frame, maybe sometimes 3 and 4 weeks, you need to plan what you're going to do, you need to develop the code, and you need to test it. And this all needs to be done by the end of your sprint. My current job does 2-week sprints. So at the end of the 2-week sprints, we need to have potentially shippable code. Whether we actually ship it or not, that's different. But it's potentially shippable, meaning it's been developed, it's been properly tested, and the bugs that may or may not exist there have been approved by product owners to say, okay, this bug is acceptable. Let's move it to production. And finally, another feature that defines Scrum is that we are constantly inspecting and adapting our application. So the beauty of these short sprints is that after the 2 weeks, you can go back and figure out what you did well, what you did not do so well. You can improve upon what you didn't do well, and you can continue doing the things that were going right. And so that's so beautiful because it gives you, let's say, such a short time span to improve your process. And it's quick. A 1 to 2 week cycle is much quicker than a year to 6 month cycle. If you have to inspect and adapt every 6 months, that's crazy. That is such slow progress for change. And sadly, there are still many companies that are doing this. And they will change, of course, but companies like the government, many other huge companies, they're going to need some time to change over to the Scrum methodologies. But in the meantime, I can tell that you're smart. That's why you're here taking this course. And that's why you're going to learn the current latest IT trend, which is the Scrum methodologies. You will learn how to do it right, and you will learn to be the best automation engineer in this environment.